There's a man living in apartment 314 who hasn't left his room in 3 years. At least, that's what everyone in the building says. No deliveries, no visitors, no sounds. But every night at exactly 2:13 a.m., someone walks down the hallway outside his apartment, slowly, dragging their feet against the carpet. And if you open your door to look, you'll see him standing at the very end of the hall, waiting. When Elena moved into Blackwood Apartments, she thought the place felt wrong immediately. Not dangerous, just off. The lobby smelled faintly like wet carpet and cigarette smoke, even though smoking wasn't allowed. The fluorescent lights buzzed constantly, and nobody ever made eye contact. Residents passed each other silently, staring at the floor as if they were afraid of being noticed. The building manager, an older woman named Denise, handed Elena her keys without smiling. "You're on the 3rd floor," she said quietly. Then after a pause, "Don't go near 314. Elena laughed awkwardly. "What?" But Denise was already walking away. The elevator creaked the entire ride up. 3rd floor. The doors opened slowly. The hallway stretched farther than Elena expected. Long, narrow, silent. The carpet muffled every footstep. At the very end of the hall, she noticed a door. The paint around it looked darker than the others somehow, as if something had stained it over time. Elena stared for a second too long, then quickly unlocked her apartment and went inside. The first night, Elena barely slept. Every sound in the building carried strangely. Pipes knocking, floorboards creaking, distant humming through the vents. At 2:13 a.m., she woke suddenly, not because of noise, because of silence. The entire building had gone completely still. Then she heard it. Dragging footsteps, slow, uneven, outside her apartment. Shh, 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 like someone slowly pulling their feet across the carpet. Elena sat frozen in bed. The footsteps continued past her door, toward the end of the hallway, toward apartment 314. Then stopped. Silence. Complete silence. She told herself not to look, but eventually curiosity won. Elena walked carefully to the door and pressed her eye against the peephole. The hallway was empty, at first. Then the light above apartment 314 flickered once, and a man stepped into view. He was impossibly tall, thin, standing perfectly still at the end of the corridor. His face was too far away to make out clearly, but Elena could tell he was smiling, not moving, not blinking, just staring directly at her door. Elena stumbled backward immediately. Her chest tightened. Every instinct in her body screamed not to open the door. The hallway remained silent for another 10 minutes. Then she heard the dragging footsteps again, slowly moving away. The next morning, Elena mentioned it to her neighbor across the hall, an elderly man named Walter. The moment she mentioned apartment 314, his expression changed completely. "You saw him?" Elena hesitated. "Who is he?" Walter looked down the hallway nervously before speaking. "No one knows. He moved in years ago. Or maybe he never did." Elena laughed uneasily. "What does that even mean?" Walter lowered his voice. "People who stare too long at his door start hearing things." "What kind of things?" But Walter simply shut the door. Over the next few nights, things got worse. The footsteps continued every night at 2:13, always ending near 314. always followed by silence. Then one night, Elena heard whispering through her bedroom wall. At first, she thought it was another tenant, but the voice sounded wrong somehow. Too soft, too close, like someone whispering directly into her ear. She pressed herself against the wall to listen. The whispering stopped instantly. Then another voice spoke from the other side. Clear, calm, male. You shouldn't listen. Elena backed away immediately. Her stomach dropped. Apartment 314 shared that wall. She called building management the next morning. Denise looked disturbed. You're hearing him now? Elena stared. What do you mean, now? Denise sighed heavily. You need to stop paying attention to apartment 314. That's the only advice I can give you. That night, Elena set up her phone to record the hallway through the peephole. At exactly 2:13 a.m., the footsteps returned. Shh, shh, shh. Elena stayed in bed this time. She refused to look. The footsteps stopped outside her apartment, not near 314, outside hers. Then came 3 knocks, slow, heavy, thunk, thunk, thunk. Elena stopped breathing. A voice whispered through the door. I know you're awake. She didn't move, didn't answer. After several seconds, the footsteps continued down the hallway. The next morning, Elena checked the recording. The hallway appeared empty the entire time. No footsteps, no figure, nothing. But the audio clearly captured the knocking. And the voice. I know you're awake. A few days later, Elena began noticing things missing from her apartment. Keys moved, cabinets open, bathroom light left on. Then she found something on her phone that made her blood run cold. A photograph she didn't remember taking. Time stamped 2:14 a.m. The image showed the hallway outside her apartment. At the end of the hall stood the man. Closer this time. Much closer, enough to see his face. Pale skin, sunken eyes. A stretched smile far too wide to be human. And beside the image was another detail. The photo had been taken from outside her apartment door. Elena finally searched the building online. What she found terrified her. 3 years earlier, a tenant in apartment 314 had disappeared. No body was ever found. But neighbors reported hearing strange footsteps every night afterward. Then another tenant vanished. Then another. All from the 3rd floor, all after reporting whispers knocking sightings in the hallway. And every report mentioned the same thing. A smiling man standing at the end of the corridor, watching, waiting. Elena stopped sleeping, stopped eating. Every reflective surface began frightening her, because sometimes she thought she saw him standing behind her, not moving, just smiling. The whispers became constant, at work, at home, inside dreams. You looked too long. You let me in. One night, Elena woke suddenly at 2:13 a.m. Her bedroom door was open. She always slept with it closed. The hallway outside her room was dark, but she could hear breathing. Slow, wet, standing just outside her bedroom. Then the voice spoke again, closer than ever before. You shouldn't have answered the door. Elena froze, because she never had. Had she? Her memories suddenly felt incomplete, distorted, wrong. And then she remembered something horrifying. Weeks earlier, on her very first night, she had opened the apartment door after hearing the footsteps, only for a second. only slightly, enough to peek down the hallway, enough to let him see her. The next morning, Elena was gone. No signs of forced entry, no struggle, no blood. Her apartment completely empty, except for her phone, still recording. Police reviewed the final video at exactly 2:13 a.m. Elena slowly opened her apartment door, stepped into the hallway, and began walking toward apartment 314. The hallway lights flickered repeatedly as she moved. Then the camera captured something standing beside the door to 314. The smiling man, waiting for her. The footage distorted violently after that. Audio static filled the recording, but investigators claimed they could still hear Elena speaking softly before the video ended, repeating the same sentence over and over. He was inside the apartment the whole time. The strangest part, apartment 314 was searched the next day. It was completely empty, no furniture, no clothing, no signs anyone had lived there for years, just dust, and one message written faintly across the inside wall, in dozens of overlapping handprints. Don't look down the hall.